Hey, you're listening to Cracking the Code, the podcast for leaders building and growing service-based businesses. If you are in legal or medical or financial services, if you have letters behind your name that qualify you to do what you do for a living, you are in the right place. I am your host, Rob Riggs, here to bring you intel and access that are designed to decode how technology can be and should be impacting your growth. All right, let's get into it. Hey, welcome back to Cracking the Code. Today's guest is the rare technologist who's earned credibility in both the boardroom and in code. And that distinction matters more than ever in today's age of AI vaporware, right? So Ian Cook is SVP of AI at Clue. And Ian, thanks so much for being on the show. Why don't you take a second to tell us about yourselves and why you do what you do today?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. As you mentioned, I'm Ian. I'm right now the SVP of AI at Clue. I've been in what started out as being called data science and then machine learning and then AI for close to 15 years. Before that, I did a lot of statistical work and did a whole PhD in political science where I studied communication, which is what got me into understanding things like text embeddings, working with the really early versions of these technologies where it was just sort of word to vec, doc to vec. That doesn't mean anything to anyone, that's fine. But it was like the early days of figuring out how to turn a PDF into a piece of text or data that I could actually do some analysis with. I've been in a number of startups building tools, products that people have used in various industries, electricity, market predictions, healthcare, direct to consumer goods, consumer packaged goods, and have focused heavily on the idea that these are tools that, can power the things we use every day. So obviously I've got a bit of an academic background, but like you asked, the thing that gets me out of bed in the morning is seeing people use the tools that I make, the things that I put out in the world, I want people to use. And I want people to tell me why it's great, why it doesn't work, what could be better. And I just spend a lot of time worried about that. My chosen medium happens to be kind of AI and machine learning based things nowadays, but that is a way to solve a problem, not the reason in and of itself.
Sure. Love it. Love it. And then I know you've got a wide base of clients and generally different industries, but can you talk us through kind of some of the commonalities that you see in what they need, and then whether it's somebody massive like Amex or whether it's a small mom and pop shop, like how are you working with them to deliver more value than they had yesterday?
There is a common question about how do I put this stuff to use for me? Like I see it out there, everybody talks about it. At bigger companies, something like an MX, there will almost certainly be some executive pressure. We need an AI strategy. We need a solution. What are we doing with AI? How much AI do we have? Can I go to the store and get more AI? The smaller places are facing kind of the same question, but going at it from a different way, which is I clearly could use this, but I don't have the deep bench to go back and explore how to put it to use. What are the great use cases? I could spend all this time experimenting, but if I am on the wrong thing, how do I get moving with it? So a lot of times what I find myself doing is bridging that gap. People who have an idea and they think it might work in a certain way or that AI might help, and then talking to them and saying, this is how you'd go about building that. Break it down into a small chunk, talk about exactly what the outcome is that you want, and then I can help build a prototype or an MVP, or we can just, use something internally at a company the size of Amex, something small like recreational apps, and say, here's how I get to a real answer very quickly because it's really focused. It is very clear what the value is at the other end. It's like, oh, I get more users. Oh, we've saved this much money, which is the way to go about these things. And you find big or small, there's usually this question of like, well, how do I make this real? So there's a lot of what I do.
Sure. Okay. And with the large companies like an Amex, they've got metrics behind that they're going to want to see as a success metric, right? The
Right.
KPIs and what did this impact? How do you pair that same level of expertise with a small business who barely has time to check their financial statement once a month and see what's
It's
the
a great question, and they are incredibly busy. The thing that I talk to them about is what's moving the needle? Is it just how many sales, how many units go out the door? Is it the speed at which you can answer a customer? Like, the people on a Shopify site, like they are getting customers, but they're so overwhelmed that they can't respond in time, and customer satisfaction is a big deal for them. So, there's a baked in metric on Shopify and other places, the net promoter score and all these other things. I'm like, what are my just reviews? Do I have 5 stars, 4.5 stars? Find one thing that is a clear piece of information that you can then look at before and after you try this tool. Like, all right, great. I want to bring my customer satisfaction up, and I think it's because I'm not getting to it fast enough. Great.
Hmm.
I know how to automate that. That's a terrific thing for LLMs. Maybe not machine learning. You don't have to worry about data science and massive amounts of data. There's just a great way to automate that. The size of an American Express, they're going to have KPs and OKRs and all of these acronyms from the top on down. Find your small business unit. What is driving this business unit's success? How are you being measured on success? The number of um, card impressions on a certain site. Terrific. That's the one thing we're going to go after. We're not trying to solve the company's problems. We're not trying to like turn the KPI of making Amex the world's most trusted credit card or whatever that is, and just say,
Right.
okay, did AP did this new AI project I launched fix that? It's like it's too big, it's too hard to measure. Start at the smallest you can and move forward.
Yeah. Do you see people try to accomplish like too much with one fell swoop?
There's
Yeah.
a just a huge notion out there that, oh my gosh, AIs can do everything. I can just like, yeah, I don't even
Yeah.
have to think about it. I just, type into the chat GPT, solve my sales problems, and it will just figure it out on its own. It is too big and too indescript for you to get good responses back. The more targeted you can be with the input, the more targeted the output is going to be. I think what people don't really appreciate is, oh, they talk about it thinking, and it's doing all this thinking, and you see all these thinking models, and these don't think, right? That's what the human is still
Right.
there for. It's just
Hmm.
fantastic at bringing out information about the problem you're asking. If you can be specific when you talk to it, it's going to get you so much more when you go back. So think about how to frame the problem. Think about how to tell it what good looks like at the other end. Think about how to tell it, these are the steps that I want to go through. Do you see any issues with that? Use it as a foil. Use it to say, here's how I'm thinking about it. What am I missing? The more you can do that, the more it'll home in on a great application and in a way to help you do what you're going to do. You just,
Sure.
everybody out there who wants to just what they call one shot an app is like, write me a new version of Salesforce and just sit back and watch it magically show up. It's just too
Right.
much. It can't, it won't know enough about what you're trying to solve for that to be a useful solution, even if it does come out with working code.
Yes, right. I like to use the illustration of AI as being a like a really smart toddler or like an intern with the entire internet like accessible by their fingertips, but they're still clueless about context, right? They don't know your
Right.
company, they don't know how you're trying to accomplish what you're going to try to accomplish. And without that context, you're going to get massive slop, and that's what we're seeing today in the industry, right?
Exactly. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, being smart and specific and tailored as to what you tell it. All of that is context. So for people who may not, have already been inundated with the term context, context engineering, all of this stuff, whenever you hear that, think of it as all the stuff you could put into the chat window when you type to ChatGPT or Claude or whichever one you happen to use. There are more programmatic, more intelligent ways to give it that, but think about it as everything you just dump in is all context. It's all then information. The more you can give it, the more it's going to understand. I happen to describe AI as being fantastic at the how, but still has no reason to understand the why. Why are you asking this question?
Mm,
Why am I focusing on sales over internal operations? Why am I worried about this marketing campaign? Why am I trying to ask it for code for this type of tool? It doesn't know why you're doing that. You do. You know what you're trying to solve. It's just a really good helper to get the how out of the way.
Sure, sure. So there's not one app to rule them all, right?
No.
And we're not gonna build one. And you really even the AI engines themselves. Like I can't tell you how many subscriptions I have for different AI tools, right?
Yeah. Yep.
But you use what's best for one particular use case, right?
I do.
What? Yeah.
Oh, please.
No. What? How many subscriptions are you paying for?
Uh, More than my family would like to admit. I happen to, because I'm in the industry, I am constantly testing things out. Plus, I'm testing out all of the open source ones. Plus, I pay attention, and every so often, Twitter or Threads or LinkedIn will blow up about this is it. This is the new one. This is the new hotness. Just this past weekend, there's a fun one called the Claude CLAWD, not the Claude you're familiar with. People should
Uh,
look into that, but it's a little more technical. It's just crazy stuff happening all the time. I use two almost entirely, well, for the majority of my day, Claude and GPT. And the way I think of it is I use Claude to create and GPT to answer questions. I don't know how I came to this breakdown, but I find Claude from Anthropic is the best at sounding human, at creating code, at creating PowerPoint, at creating, suggestions or thinking through a problem. Is like here, like help me craft, a really nice way to describe to the executive branch this problem that I'm facing, or what's a great way to frame kind of this thing that I'm trying to think through, or help me write this article that I'm trying to write. If I'm just like, all right, I need to know what is known as the Middle Kingdom in ancient Egypt and what dates were those. For some reason, I go to ChatGPT for I've liked the answers and it's clear and it gives me a little more context. So I think of that as more of my knowledge side, whereas Claude is much more of my engine and develop and creation.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Um, yeah, interesting. Have you gotten involved in any of the other ancillary, the lesser known, the Lovable, the Bolt, the Replit, things like that?
Yes, I have tried out a lot of those.
Okay.
I could not design a page or an ad to save my life. So I've used some of those tools. There's Gemma, which does slides, which are fantastic. V0 does amazing web pages and front ends. Replit, Lovable, Bolt are great at the like get something up in front of people on a website really, really quickly. Those are super fun. I also happen to love some of the agent builders. If you've ever heard of Lindy or
Yeah.
Zapier is doing a ton of this now in building agents and MCP servers and all of the catchphrases you're starting to hear. All these companies are really getting into it. I love them all for different reasons. I happen to think the right way to do all of this is just pick a tool and try it. Like you're going to be uh, always behind the curve, whatever you're doing. Just pick something and start and try it out and learn what it's good at and what it's not good at. So that when other people come to you and say, oh, well, you could just do that with Replit. And you're like, yeah, I tried. And here's where I'm hitting snags. And that person give you better
Mm.
feedback then and be like, oh, okay. But dig in, the cost of generating code and these and other things is zero. So the cost of throwing it
Right.
away is zero. Just keep working on it.
Yeah, right. I can't tell you how much time it's saved, and I'm able to launch something or get it, 80% of the way there to MVP easily. Um,
Yes.
and then, yeah, it's yeah, incredible. Hey, this is Rob Riggs, and I wanted to take just a second to tell you about Code Conspirators, our sponsor here. And we are a technology-focused performance marketing agency serving professional service firms. So that's legal, medical, financial, engineering. If you take a test to do what you do for a living, we help you grow your practice with websites and apps and software and performance marketing. That's organic, paid ads, retargeting, conversion optimization. And we're also doing a whole host of things with CRM, AI, and automation that's been bringing our clients tremendous value. If you're curious at all, go to codeconspirators.com to learn more. Now back to the show. Well, So I'd love to talk through some other use cases where you've seen success. We've talked about like insurance companies or other in the financial sector, law firms, medical practices. What are some of the things that you see that are just easy wins for somebody to input into their business that has a real impact?
I think there's a huge growth in financial planning and financial management for companies. The ability to put in data and ask for interesting trends and interesting insights that you haven't seen before or that you might not have thought of, or just risks and questions. So the big, caveat is these tools don't quite do math on their own. If you ask it, to count the R's in strawberry, it kind of gets it wrong. But what's happening when you put in something like a spreadsheet or you're using one of these other tools is it's employing code in the background to do it. So even though somebody says to you, well, the LLM still can't do math, it's like, I don't have to have it do math. If it can write a program that can do math, then it's just as good.
Right.
The number of CFOs that I'm hearing finding tools or moving to a place where they just like check their books and go through and understand and put information in and get back like, hey, here's something you need to be paying attention to, or here's a review of the model you've got and the assumptions. Like, all right, great, I've got certain growth assumptions over a certain amount of time. I have, depending on the size of the company, am I, I've got international exposure. Do I have to worry about that? What's the current, show me this and then research what other people are saying about that kind of exposure and what they're doing to hedge and how they're working on it. And you can just get a secondary set of eyes on something that you can work with and go back and forth. Like you mentioned, legal tech, I think, is ready to explode. There's a couple of amazing tools. Healthcare, every new technology that comes around, everybody's like, oh, it's going to revolutionize healthcare. And our healthcare system seems inordinately able to absorb and chew up and then spit out these tools. I think there's probably coming at the margins a ton of healthcare stuff. I've done interesting things in working with forms. I think anybody who has to work with documents and forms in terms of extracting information from one place and filling it into another, that's a huge tool or a huge time savings. And to a certain extent, that's kind of what some legal issues are, but more healthcare and things like prior authorization forms. But in insurance, here's an entire company's set of insurance documents and their entire population, and they're treated and whatnot, and then I need to extract key information from it. This is what LLMs are getting, incredibly good at. They will go from hours and hours and hours or days and weeks of people's time to here's the key information, here's where I got it from the document, now focus on the important parts.
So that's huge. Do you have a way of double checking what the AI is producing? Are you spot checking, or when does it start to hallucinate, and how do you stop it from before it gets there?
So hallucination is always a problem because to be technical for a minute, these things are we consider non-deterministic. If you ask the same question you twice, you generally won't get the same answer in that there's be slight word changes or slight differences. It'll be directionally the same. It's not going to give you a sonnet if you didn't ask for it. So you do have to be worried about it because the hallucinations can be very, very
Okay.
subtle.
Sure.
Whole industry built around figuring these things out. So evaluations in using LLMs in a production system are key. I would say to make it dead simple, here's the thing. Tell it what good looks like, give it examples of what the right answer is, and then use humans to do spot checking at the other end. Instead of spending all those hours building the tool and then going through the grunt work, use it to check the results on the other end and then help refine how you're giving this stuff information. There are tons of companies that do these tests. They're called evals or evaluations for short. The other thing you can just kind of do, and a lot of these LLMs are doing it now, is ask for citations. So if you pull out any information from a PDF to answer my question, tell me where you got it, and I will open up
Yeah.
three, four, depending on how many, three, four, five, six, and just be like, all right, that's generally, I'm seeing that it's getting the right information from this document. If you're going to put it in front of a judge, check every single one. But if you are looking for feedback and direction and help, then you can be relatively confident.
There. So as a lawyer, don't use it to write your briefs, your lawsuits, your contracts,
Yeah, yeah.
etc. But
Use it
yeah,
to do all the research, go through and read the other side's information and be like, all right, what's the other side responding? What are the key ways that they're making that argument? What from their documents do they seem to rely on in cases? Okay, great. Now we'll go and read that case. What are some good responses to those? Great. Draft a paragraph for me about a response, or, well, it's a lawyer. So draft me 30 or 40 pages as a response to that one.
sure. Yeah,
So, and then you go back and read it. But, there are just ways to radically reduce the amount of time you spend on things that used to take forever.
sure. So, for somebody that bills for their time, like an attorney, what's the ethics, in your opinion, on like, hey, I just fed this into ChatGPT and got something back in 3 minutes, and it's good enough. Whereas somebody, it would take them an hour and a half to write the thing, manually. Where are there cost savings? Where are there cost savings for the law firm? Where are there cost savings that get passed along to the consumer? And
Sure.
what's appropriate?
I am not a lawyer, and I don't know what the lawyer's ethical obligations are in terms of strict requirements. So I'll just say this is how I might think about it. The amount of time the lawyer is working on something is genuinely time the lawyer is bringing their brain to the problem. That's what, everybody thinks of when you get charged by a lawyer, is this person's working on my case. Now, if I can have you go through all the details of my case in an afternoon rather than in 3 weeks, I have savings, you get savings because you can move on to your next client. You can move on to working with a higher volume of clients. The whole, law firm probably gets a general speed up. And I have, a number of lawyer friends, and they're like, it's good, but it's not like we're not talking about like yesterday I had 10 clients, tomorrow I can have 10,000 clients, but
Sure.
it definitely helps speed up in a number of those areas. So my thinking is that what the lawyer should be charging for is the amount of time they spent thinking about your case. Now, if it took uh, instead of charging for, I had to read 5,000 pages of depositions and cross filings and all those things to get at it. And I only, had to work with ChatGPT to boil that down and then think about what's going on and then go back and research a little bit. That's higher, that seems to me higher signal to noise. That seems to me higher value for both the law firm and the client. Um, but the charge should be the lawyer it's like hands on keyboard or thinking or highlighting a document or whatever it is that they, I think of whatever lawyers do all day. That's what we should charge
Yeah.
for. They're giving me some fixed costs. I suppose if the law firm has a huge enterprise bill, they'll divide that up among the clients. But yeah, I don't see at this point having I would caution people against like, well, that used to take me 10 hours. So if ChatGPT does it in 10 minutes, that's still the equivalent of 10 hours of work. So I'll charge for that. That seems
Right.
like skating on thin ice.
For sure. Got it. Got it. So, in your opinion, how much of current enterprise AI markets are complete BS? Like, is there value in that is being touted that's not there actually?
I think there's a ton of value. I think there's going to be exceptional value in this area. I think it's going to be slower in adoption and use, and we're going to be slower to see this ROI because the industries that we are going to see um, get the most return are the ones that can utilize the output of these LLMs the fastest. Um, Code is just the clearest one because it's easily output really, you can type really fast with an LLM and the output is verifiably correct or incorrect. Now,
Right.
everybody will get into arguments about whether it's good code, bad code. There's, good arguments on both sides. But if it does what it's supposed to do, launches a website, clicks a button, machine learning ones, makes a prediction, that is done and it happens and it's clear. Language translation, absolutely. Like, did it get the right language? Did it get right the word? Perfect. Now you bring that into other places and other jobs, and it's very hard to say, like, well, what is good and what is right? That's what we have the humans for. That uptake will be harder. It won't be as fast as seeing the uptake as we saw in code. So we're going to have, I think, a period where it's going to feel like this is not going as fast. We're like, oh, maybe AI didn't have the promise it did, but the same thing with computers and with email. It's like it's radically shaped how we've worked, but it's
Right.
not like everything changed overnight. except for
Yeah,
typists in the typing pool and, office schedulers and office managers.
fair, fair. Nice. Ian, I know we're coming up on time here, but is there something you would be disappointed if we walked away from the conversation and hadn't covered?
Oh, sure. Going back to that last point we talked about, remember that whenever you hear people talk about AI turning into AGI or artificial general intelligence and taking 50% of white collar jobs in 12 to 18 months, those are people who need to fill an investment round. That's not to say they're not smart people. It's not to say they aren't building a generationally important technology, but they are
Mhm.
attempting to keep a valuation that more and more feels like it's not supportable. It's huge. It's fantastic. These are great technologies, but the numbers are getting crazy because investors want to believe the whole like, oh, well, like, every white collar job is going to be AI inside of 5 years. It's not coming for your job that fast. It's coming to
Yeah.
change your job pretty quickly, and there will be disruption, but we have a long time, a long, long time before like all of a sudden, half the workforce is just sitting around going, well, I can eat grapes and fan myself in the sun because AI showed up.
Yeah, sure. Fantastic. Ian, man, thanks so much for jumping on the show.
Yeah,
I
Rob, no
appreciate your
problem. Thank you.
presence. And yeah, yeah, definitely. So I'll make sure that the links to whatever you want are in the show notes. But if somebody were going to reach out for more info, like where can they hit you up?
I'm pretty easily findable on the socials. I'm always Ian P. Cook, IANPCOOK. LinkedIn's probably the easiest. And then I have a website, Fierce Highways, plural, .ai, if people want to understand a little bit about what I do in my like side hustle consulting work. I think of it as building prototypes, not exactly consulting, but more than happy to have a conversation. I love talking about this stuff. So if people want to chat, no, we won't even get into costs until way down the line.
Sure. Awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing your insights, and definitely we will look forward to seeing kind of how this impacts the market out there, the audience.
Appreciate it,
Um,
Rob. Have a great one.
all right, you as well, man. All right, that was Ian Cook, SVP of AI at Clue, and one of the rare voices in enterprise AI who's actually built things that work at scale. So I encourage you to check out links to Ian's profile, his site, etc., in the show notes. And if your firm is sitting on inefficient intake processes, kind of like we talked about, manual follow-up systems or websites that convert like it's 2005, we should talk. Co-Conspirator specializes in the unglamorous work of making tech that actually performs for law firms, for medical practices, financial advisors, and technical service providers, right? So either way, there's a link to all of our solutions in the show notes. And definitely thank you for tuning in and look forward to seeing you next time.